Nadia, the mysterious assassin the world came to know as the Hitwoman in a hijab, was no ordinary fugitive. She was a master of disguise, a phantom who crossed borders with ease, and a woman who left behind nothing but bodies and black chess pawns as chilling signatures of her deadly game. In 2017, the quiet suburban streets of Dearborn, Michigan, became the unlikely stage for a crime that would spiral into one of the most shocking investigations in recent memory. The case began with the discovery of a prominent businessman found dead in his home, his body showing signs of a clean and professional execution. There was no sign of forced entry, no chaos in the rooms, no fingerprints or DNA left behind. Whoever had committed the act had done so with cold precision. At first, authorities wondered if it was an inside job or perhaps linked to his dealings in shady financial circles. But as the days passed, a single thread began to emerge. A woman, veiled in a modest hijab, was seen leaving the neighborhood that night. Witnesses could not agree on her exact age or appearance. The veil covered much of her face, and she walked with calm confidence that left no one thinking she was suspicious until later, when the news broke of the killing. Investigators dug into security footage from nearby stores and traffic lights, and their suspicions grew. Grainy clips showed the same figure appearing hours before the murder, moving with deliberate purpose and blending effortlessly into the community. She was not panicked, not careless, but precise, as if every step had been rehearsed. The FBI soon realized this was not an isolated crime. Similar murders with the same methodical execution had occurred in neighboring states, all tied to individuals with questionable reputations. While at first, the killings looked unrelated, one chilling detail linked them: the presence of a woman in a hijab, slipping away like a shadow just before the discovery of each body. The press latched onto the mystery, branding her the Hitwoman in a hijab. The name sent shivers through the public, painting a picture of a ghost-like assassin who moved unseen yet left devastation behind. For law enforcement, the challenge was unlike anything they had faced. She left no weapons, no evidence, not even a clear face to trace. Each victim had enemies, but the overlap suggested a much deeper pattern at play. With every lead that surfaced, she seemed to vanish just ahead of pursuit, always outsmarting those chasing her. What was most unsettling was her ability to operate in broad daylight yet remain invisible. Some believed she was acting alone, others speculated she was part of a far-reaching organization. What was certain was that this was no ordinary criminal, and the investigation into her identity was only just beginning. As investigators dug deeper into the murders, they began to notice that the victims were far from innocent. Each man had connections to questionable enterprises, illegal money transfers, smuggling operations, and hidden offshore accounts that kept them shielded from justice. The killings were too calculated to be random. It was as though someone was targeting people who believed they were untouchable. For the detectives, this raised a terrifying question: was this a vigilante with her own sense of justice, or a mercenary working for a shadowy network with global interests? The forensic teams found almost nothing at the crime scenes. There were no hairs, no fingerprints, no fibers. The assassin's presence was like a ghost that moved through each location without leaving a trace. Yet she always left behind a single mark, a small black pawn from a chess set placed carefully near the victim's body. To law enforcement, this was both a signature and a provocation. It wasn't simply a clue. It was a declaration that each killing was part of a larger game. The pawn suggested strategy, patience, and the message that someone else was pulling the strings. It made her crimes feel less like random acts of violence and more like moves on a global chessboard. The FBI began to profile her movements. She seemed to strike every few months, appearing in one state and then disappearing completely, only to surface in another city hundreds of miles away. Each time, the victims were connected by hidden financial crimes or international dealings, which made the pattern even more unsettling. She didn't fit the mold of any contract killer they had seen before. Most hired assassins were motivated by money and left traces when they grew careless. But this woman operated with discipline and consistency, as though she had been trained with military precision. Public fascination with the case grew. Media outlets broadcast stories about the mysterious woman who could walk through cities in plain sight and slip away without detection. Conspiracy theories multiplied online. Some believed she was a rogue intelligence agent punishing criminals that governments could not prosecute. Others claimed she was part of a secret vigilante movement designed to expose global corruption. Still others suggested she was a symbol of rebellion, a figure who represented power in disguise. But behind the sensational headlines, investigators were no closer to her true identity. She remained an enigma, both feared and admired. Her name whispered as though it belonged to a legend rather than a real person. By 2019, the trail of the mysterious assassin no longer confined itself to the United States. What had started as a series of murders in Michigan and surrounding states suddenly expanded across borders, leaving investigators scrambling to keep up. Interpol confirmed that similar killings had occurred in Canada, Turkey, and Germany, all tied to individuals involved in financial corruption and international smuggling rings. The precision was the same, the efficiency identical, and the black chess pawn was always present. What stunned authorities was not just her ability to cross borders unnoticed, but to operate in countries with some of the world's most advanced security networks without leaving a trace. The woman known only by the media's moniker, the Hitwoman in a Hijab, carried multiple passports under different names. Witnesses described her differently in each country, sometimes taller, sometimes younger, her accents shifting effortlessly depending on where she was. This ability to reinvent herself made her more than a fugitive. She became a phantom that authorities struggled to define. In Istanbul, one of her most daring operations unfolded when a banker tied to illegal oil transfers was found dead in a hotel room, poisoned with a substance nearly impossible to trace. Security cameras caught a glimpse of a woman in a modest hijab walking calmly down the corridor minutes before the banker's last known activity. The image was blurry, but it was enough to fuel panic. Her movements suggested careful planning. She knew when to enter, when to leave, and always disappeared into crowded airports or busy markets. Investigators began to believe she was not working alone. Her timing was too precise, her routes to secure, and her ability to bypass international checkpoints to flawless. There had to be insiders feeding her information or a network guiding her through escape channels. The international manhunt grew into one of the largest in recent history. Intelligence agencies from multiple nations began cooperating, yet even with shared resources, she always stayed a step ahead. In Canada, she vanished from a train station moments before officers closed in. In Germany, she disappeared into a crowd after a politician was shot, her escape timed with the chaos of a citywide protest. Every move made her legend grow, and every escape humiliated those who chased her. The truth was becoming undeniable: this was no ordinary killer. This was someone trained, supported, and protected, a woman who had transformed assassination into an art form, leaving governments around the world desperate to uncover the full scale of her reach. In 2021, the investigation took a dramatic turn when a former associate came forward with information that shattered the theory of a lone assassin. According to this insider, the woman known as the Hitwoman in a Hijab was not acting independently but was part of a covert network operating under the cover of a humanitarian charity. The revelation stunned investigators, as this organization had built a reputation for delivering aid in conflict zones, yet behind closed doors, it doubled as a mercenary group eliminating high-profile figures tied to global corruption. This explained her uncanny ability to move across borders so freely. She had the protection of a group with resources, intelligence, and international contacts. The woman's alias, Nadia, surfaced in the leaked testimony. She had grown up in the United States, blending into suburban life while hiding extraordinary training and discipline. From a young age, she had been recruited for her intellect and her ability to adapt. She spoke multiple languages, understood cultural codes, and could vanish into environments without raising suspicion. Her hijab, once considered a disguise, was revealed to be a deliberate choice. It gave her the ability to deflect attention, to become invisible in plain sight, while also challenging the stereotypes her pursuers clung to. She used people's assumptions as her shield. For law enforcement, the most chilling discovery was the meaning behind the black chess pawn. It wasn't just a personal signature but a symbol of the organization's philosophy. The operatives considered themselves pawns in a vast global game, expendable pieces guided by unseen hands. Every assassination was another move designed to destabilize networks of power and wealth. The pawn symbol was not arrogance, it was a warning. Nadia was not the queen of the board, only one of many pieces scattered across the globe. This revelation shifted the tone of the manhunt. It was no longer about capturing a single fugitive, but about dismantling a system built to survive even if one operative fell. Authorities feared that if Nadia was caught, others would rise to replace her, continuing the mission without hesitation. The sense of urgency grew. but so did the fear that she was only one thread in a tapestry far more complex than anyone had imagined. The Hitwoman in a Hijab was no longer just a story about a shadowy killer, it was about a hidden war being fought silently across continents. A war where every move was calculated, and every pawn had a purpose. The break investigators had been waiting for finally came in 2023, after years of chasing shadows and false leads. While monitoring encrypted communication channels, cyber teams intercepted a single mistake, a brief slip in coded language that revealed Nadia's next move. She was planning to enter Morocco under yet another false identity, and for the first time, authorities had both the timing and location. A joint task force composed of American, European, and North African operatives was assembled in Casablanca. The operation was kept secret from even local law enforcement, out of fear that her network had infiltrated agencies at every level. The raid took place in the dead of night. Agents stormed a luxury apartment overlooking the city, expecting another empty hideout. Instead, they found Nadia inside, calm and composed, as though she had been waiting for them. Her arrest was tense, with officers fearful that she might have rigged the room with explosives or had backup nearby. But she surrendered without a struggle, leaving investigators unsettled. The apartment was filled with evidence: stacks of forged passports, hidden compartments containing untraceable weapons, encrypted laptops, and an entire chess set where the pawns were polished to perfection and lined neatly in rows. Each pawn was marked with a number, suggesting a system of operations far bigger than one woman. The capture sparked a global frenzy. Media outlets broadcast the story nonstop, branding her both a ruthless killer and a figure who had exposed the cracks in international security. Her trial became one of the most watched court cases of the decade, with every detail dissected by journalists and conspiracy theorists alike. Yet Nadia herself remained silent. She offered no confession, no explanation, and refused to reveal the names of those who had trained her or funded her missions. Even when confronted with overwhelming evidence, she carried herself with an unsettling calm, as though she still held control of the board. For governments, her arrest was both a victory and a haunting reminder of what remained hidden. The pawns suggested there were other operatives still active, perhaps already preparing to continue the mission she had begun. To the public, Nadia became a symbol either of terror or of a twisted form of justice, depending on who was asked. Though imprisoned, the legend of the Hitwoman in a Hijab only grew stronger, leaving one question echoing long after her capture: had they caught the mastermind, or merely one piece in a game that was still unfolding?